People keep bringing up the fact that LeBron went 16-6 against Kobe, Pau Gasol, and Phil Jackson in the regular season as if that's supposed to end the debate. But if regular season records matter that much, then why don't we apply that same logic everywhere else? LeBron couldn't get past the Dynasty Spurs. He couldn't beat the Dwight Howard Magic. He couldn't get through the super team Celtics. Yet somehow, those playoff failures are supposed to carry less weight than a regular season record against Kobe. How does that make sense? We're constantly told Michael Jordan's early playoff exits before Scottie Pippen arrived are a major stain on his resume, and one of the reasons some people won't call him the greatest ever. So Jordan's early playoff losses matter. Kobe's regular season record against LeBron matters. But LeBron missing the playoffs, getting eliminated early, and losing in the finals somehow doesn't matter. That's the inconsistency that drives people crazy. It's like dealing with a toxic relationship. She cheats on you, doesn't matter. She keys your car, doesn't matter. She wants her ex-boyfriend staying in your house, still doesn't matter. But then you like somebody's picture on Instagram and suddenly you're the villain. That's what this debate feels like. The standards change depending on who we're talking about. So yes, when somebody says LeBron's regular season record against Kobe proves he's better, it feels like they're ignoring everything else. Because if we're talking about who outplayed who, then LeBron never outplayed the Dynasty Spurs. He never outplayed the Dwight Howard Magic. He never outplayed the super team Celtics. Kobe beat all of those teams on the biggest stage. Kobe ended the Spurs dynasty run, and it took San Antonio 5 years to get back to the finals. Think about that for a second. People say Dwayne Wade needed LeBron because Miami didn't get back to the finals until 2006, until LeBron arrived in 2010. That's a real argument people make. So why doesn't the same logic apply to the Spurs? The answer people usually give is that Kobe had Pau and Phil. Okay, fine, but Pau and Phil were also there during that 16-6 regular season record everybody keeps bringing up for LeBron. You can't use them as an excuse in one argument and ignore them in another. LeBron had a winning regular season record over Kobe, Pau, and Phil. At the same time, Kobe and that group dethroned the reigning champion Spurs, handled the Dwight Howard Magic, and beat the brakes off the super team Celtics that LeBron never got through. To be fair, I understand what some people are trying to say. Their argument is that LeBron is simply the better basketball player, not necessarily the better leader, not necessarily the guy who wanted it more, just the better player. It's kind of like comparing Jalen Brunson and Victor Wembanyama. I don't think Brunson is the better player than Wembanyama. I don't think his ceiling is higher either. But when they matched up, Brunson won and took home Finals MVP. That's the comparison being made. Look at LeBron like Wembanyama and Kobe like Brunson. If LeBron had reached the finals and faced Kobe head-to-head, the belief is that the outcome would have looked a lot like that. And part of the criticism of LeBron is that he spends too much time in his own head. Because when you get to the finals, it's like stepping into a fight. Sports are a form of combat. Basketball, football, all of it. At the highest level, it's about going to war and seeing who can handle the pressure when everything is on the line. At the highest level of sports, guys are fighting to protect what they've built. They're defending their legacy. That's just competition. A lot of people don't want to hear that because they think every conflict can be talked through. But that's not how sports work. When the pressure gets real, heart matters. And that's where a lot of Kobe supporters separate him from LeBron. Heart is one of those things you can't measure with a stat sheet. It's an X factor. Take the 2011 Mavericks, for example.
Nobody thought that team was supposed to win the championship, but they had more fight and more belief than LeBron's team did. That's part of the criticism. There's also the belief that LeBron didn't want Dwayne Wade winning another Finals MVP and that he ended up snaking his teammate because of it. Whether you agree or not, that's an argument some people make. And then they compare that to Kobe, because Kobe had opportunities where he could have tried to stop Shaquille O'Neal from getting Finals MVPs and didn't. Eventually, Kobe won 2 Finals MVPs without Shaq. Meanwhile, Shaq never won a Finals MVP without Kobe and never won one without Phil Jackson either. However you want to break it down, both of those statements are true. For some people, that's where they see a difference in character between the two players. They view it as a flaw, and they believe that type of flaw is something that should have been corrected early in life. That's why these conversations always go beyond basketball. People start talking about mentality, personality, and character. And when those arguments get repeated by others, they often miss the deeper point behind them. That's why you can't just borrow somebody else's phrases and throw them into every basketball debate. There's an entire line of thinking behind those comments. If you don't understand it, you're going to come across as fake and disingenuous. People who really pay attention to these debates will pick that apart immediately. That's just the reality of it. Because in today's basketball debates and podcasts, you don't really hear many people making these kinds of arguments anymore. Most of them avoid going there entirely. That's why this discussion always ends up standing out.
When I came up, dude, football was it was gladiated. It was angry. It was angry. It was just like when we hit somebody, when I played, if you hit somebody and he didn't get up, like we didn't hold hands with the other team and pray, like hold hands and everyone prays for him to get up. We used to do a Indian, like sell a hump dance circle around him, like, and be like, and our crowd's like, he's paralyzed. That's right. We be looking for his mother crying, be like, that's right, lady. That's what you get for letting him out here with killers. He can't even wiggle his toes. Take his socks. Take his socks. We would tie his socks around our helmet for the next weeks. Like the next team, they knew, oh, that's the team that be tying paralyzed niggas' socks around their helmets to scare them next week. And then it ain't like we were thinking about harming somebody. It's just that's what we did, right?
You play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it. That's the great thing about sports. You play to win. And I don't care if you don't have any wins. You go play to win. When you start telling me it doesn't matter, then retire. Get out. Because it matters.
And it's just basketball. At the end of the day, it's just basketball.
I just can't buy the argument that LeBron's 16-6 regular season record over Kobe is supposed to settle this debate. Because if that record means everything, then explain this to me. Why couldn't LeBron get past the dynasty Spurs? Kobe did. Kobe ended that Spurs dynasty. What dynasty did LeBron James end? Michael Jordan ended the Lakers dynasty. Michael Jordan ended the Pistons dynasty. And Jordan won the Finals MVP himself. Nobody else carried him to that moment. Then people turn around and say Jordan didn't win until Phil Jackson showed up. Okay, then keep that same energy with Shaq O'Neal. Because that argument actually applies even more to Shaq. Shaq spent around 8 years trying to win before Phil Jackson arrived and couldn't get it done. Phil came to Chicago in Jordan's 3rd season. We don't even have as large a sample size there as we do with Shaq. But nobody wants to use that argument against Shaq. That's why I can't accept it when it's only used against Michael Jordan. Either apply the standard to everybody or don't apply it at all. You don't hear people saying Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker only won because they had Greg Popovich. Nobody says that. That's why these arguments come off as narratives, because the rules only seem to exist for Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. The same standard isn't being used on everybody else, and that's the issue. I still can't accept the idea that LeBron's 16-6 regular season record over Kobe means more when LeBron couldn't even get through the Dwight Howard magic and reach Kobe in the finals. If you were better than Kobe, why couldn't you meet him there? Forget beating him, why couldn't you even stop him from winning Finals MVP? It's not Kobe's responsibility to beat LeBron directly, but he beat the teams that eliminated LeBron. That's why people say Kobe was the better leader. You can argue LeBron was the better player if you want, but leadership is a different conversation. And remember, LeBron had some really talented teams too. That 16-6 record wasn't one-on-one basketball. It was LeBron, his teammates, and his coaches. Isn't that the same thing people say about Jordan? That he didn't win by himself? Well, nobody wins by themselves. That's true for every great player in NBA history. I also can't get behind the idea that LeBron beat Kobe 16-6 while at the same time he couldn't get through the super team Celtics. Kobe didn't avoid that challenge, he went straight at them. If Kobe had approached things the way critics say LeBron did, then after losing to Boston in 2008, he would have packed up and joined another superstar somewhere else. Instead, he stayed and kept fighting. LeBron fans are going to see it their way. That's fine. But to a lot of people, the math simply doesn't add up. 2 + 2 = 4. It doesn't equal 7. This conversation has already gone on long enough. Honestly, talking about these debates is enough to make your blood pressure go up. At the end of the day, if you're trying to explain championship basketball through a completely different lens than what actually happens on the court, then a lot of people are going to say you're missing the point entirely.